being envious of those ranked above him, and feeling inferior are some of the traits of the character I will be analysing in this video. Nnoitra Gilga behaves in a deplorable manner, looking down on his underlings, allowing himself to be consumed by a sense of inferiority and feeling offense when he is challenged by someone who claims to be stronger than him. Nnoitra's dislikable personality and rude behaviour makes him one of the more memorable Espada. His sense of bloodlust complements Kenpachi's similar tendency to enjoy battling out of pure instinct and desire for battle. This is why the conflicts between them feel so exhilarating when they battle with each other in Hueco Mundo. I want to go over Nnoitra's past, his relationships with the different characters in the series, and by the end of the video I will aim to convey my understanding of why he behaves the way that he does during the story of Bleach. Nnoitra makes his first appearance in chapter 229 and in episode 138 of the anime. He has long black hair that reaches past his shoulders. The pupil of his eyes resemble a reptile's eyes. He is often seen with a large smug smile on his face, which reveals his upper teeth. His left eye is covered by an eye patch that is in fact covering his hollow hole. Fragments of his hollow mask are also concealed behind his eye patch. They consist of a set of teeth along with a jawbone underneath them. Nnoitra's clothing is different in comparison to his peers. His Arrancar jacket has a large circular hood extended behind from his collars, along with his chest to the top of his abdomen being exposed. Nnoitra is the 5th ranked Espada. He has been assigned despair as his aspect of death. He gains pleasure from inflicting pain onto others, also displaying prejudice against women, as in the past he was frustrated by Nnoitra being stronger than him, insulting her and holding bitter feelings of resentment towards her, as he believes men are superior to women in intellect and ability. He desires to be the most powerful Espada, willing to even attack his opponents if they have already been weakened or injured in battle to assert his dominance over them. He has a single loyal Fraction called Tessera, who looks up to Nnoitra despite the latter always insulting and scolding him. He remains loyal to his leader even after his death, as he is seen lying on the ground on the verge of death himself, shedding a tear for Nnoitra after he is killed by Kenpachi. This Espada is luckily one that Kubo does well to expand upon in the manga, as he writes him with a lot of depth and complexity. Nnoitra has a lot of deep-rooted issues that we see come to the surface. We get to experience how these unresolved issues lead to his inevitable downfall. I want to begin by looking into his past and trying to understand how and why Nnoitra adopts his way of thinking, which causes him to grow feelings of inadequacy that lead to his self-destructive desire for supremacy. Nnoitra's backstory is told during 2 flashbacks. One explains his relationship with Nnoitra and the other details how he defeated her. In chapter 312 we see Nnoitra being asked why by Nnoitra, who questions why he killed a colony of hollows despite not being ordered to do so by Aizen. His justification is that he wasn't told not to kill them. He says that not all the hollows obey Aizen. Those who defy him are rebels who need to be killed for the sake of Aizen. Nnoitra is condescending and looks upon Nnoitra unfavourably for needlessly killing. She reminds him of how lucky they are to be among a few hollows who have evolved to become Espada. He is frustrated by her disapproval and advises her to punish him, but she states that despite being an Espada he behaves like a child. He charges for her, ironically proving a point before being knocked out by her. She appears to have prevented a hollow from attacking him while Nnoitra was blinded by frustration. When he wakes up he sees her sitting beside him reading a book. He questions why she saved him, but she says she didn't save him. She simply prevented him from going and getting himself needlessly killed, because he is a valuable Espada after all. Nnoitra tells her that he doesn't like her and assumes she knows this. He then asks her why she continues to follow him. She looks over at him, revealing that she does so because he is weaker than her. The expressive shock we see from Nnoitra in the next panel helps us to understand how much he truly despises being looked down upon and being on the receiving end of somebody else's pity. In chapter 313, the flashback continues with Nnoitra having killed an Arrancar. Still following him, Nnoitra wonders what the purpose is to his battles. He tells her that his purpose is fighting, but she still doesn't understand. She asks why is it that he continues to fight. He reveals to her that he does so because he wants to die. Nnoitra desires to die in battle. This is the reason that he is the way that he is. As long as he can get stronger, then he will be able to fight more. His desire is to eat, sleep, and breathe the sensation of battling. He makes it clear to Nnoitra that if she wants to continue following him, then she needs to understand that he will show no mercy to any of his opponents regardless of who they are. Considering that Nnoitra hates Nnoitra, he's opening up himself to her a lot here. She comments that his purpose is intoxicating and appears to be consuming his very being, telling him that his desire is like a fleeting high. Nnoitra agrees, but tells her that there is no finer liquor than water before a battle. He drowns himself in his bloodlust, which is a worthy substitute to drowning himself in liquor. Most people who feel despair resort to alcohol in order to numb themselves or escape from their situation. salvation. He explains that for their kind who reside within Hueco Mundo there is no salvation. Not even Aizen can rectify this problem. They wander aimlessly in this barren wasteland devoid of life. But thanks to Aizen, Nnoitra was given strength to which he is grateful for. Because of this, he was able to make progress in his skill of battling, and was determined to get stronger than anyone so that he may one day fight a worthy opponent who will take his life out of his body before it hits the ground, who reveals that this is the way that he desires to die, a final strike of intoxication which will rid him of his existence. We see that it was Kenpachi who indeed fulfilled Nnoitra's desire, and I will go into their conflict in more detail later on in the video. Through Nnoitra's character, we are able to understand Hueco Mundo more. We understand that those who reside in this world have no real greater purpose in life. For the most part, it is a meaningless existence. This is what we can assume that Nnoitra had come to realize, which leads to his feelings of despair, and his association with this as his aspect of death. Despite all of this, he was still able to find a purpose in his life, a reason that would push him in the pursuit of more strength and power. His intoxicating desire for battle and power is shown through his envy that he directs towards Nnoitra, which proves his feelings of inferiority. Chapter 294 begins the second flashback that reveals more about Nnoitra and Nnoitra's relationship. We see the two of them having just concluded a battle. It appears that Nnoitra challenging Nnoitra has become a regular occurrence. He demands that she kills him at the end of their battle, but she refuses to, stating that she has no rational reason to kill him. Nnoitra explains that they once were humans who became hollows, but they regained their sense of reason once they became Arancars. Nnoitra is frustrated by the way that Nnoitra thinks, and tells her that he has a reason to kill her. His reason is that he dislikes her. However, she tells him that this isn't a valid reason, rather it is an impulse derived from his instinct. She then mocks him by referring to him as a beast, stating that she does not recognize him as a warrior. She even says that she would not want to burden herself with his life by killing him. After she leaves, Nnoitra is approached by his Frachion Tessera, who asks if he is okay, but he frustratingly tells him not to get too friendly. His sense of inferiority seeps out as he tells him not to think of himself as an equal to him, just because he was defeated by Nnoitra. Tessera asks him why is it that he desires to defeat Nnoitra when there are other Espada he could set his eyes on. He reveals that he cannot stand that a woman has defeated a man in battle. He is not recognized by Nnoitra, and through defeating her he desires to seek this acceptance or recognition. He cannot reach the heights that she has attained. Nnoitra's Zanpakuto is called Santa Teresa, which translated from Spanish means praying mantis. We learn more about his character traits and behaviors when we study the creepy predator insect that his Zanpakuto is named after. He appears to have a hatred for a female who happens to be the only female Espada, feeling inferior that he cannot bridge the gap between them and allowing the differences in gender to fuel his sense of inferiority further. Female praying mantis perform sexual cannibalism. They are seen to eat their smaller male counterparts after fertilization. In the same way that a male praying mantis is consumed by the larger female, Nnoitra is consumed by Nnoitra's higher rank and power. He is destined to remain inferior to her, just as a male mantis is born to be smaller and more vulnerable to a female mantis. Praying mantis have a tendency to creep up on their prey and camouflage themselves and ambush them. We can see this in Nnoitra's behavior when he strikes Grimmjow off guard, and how he eventually defeats Nnoitra through using underhanded tactics. The flashback continues with Nnoitra returning after a battle with Nnoitra to discover her Frachion are missing. He approaches her and asks if she is looking for something, but she advises him not to wield his weapon in front of her like that in an attempt to look intimidating. She says that it just makes him look pathetic. She advises him to put it away if he wishes to earn the respect of others. Nnoitra constantly exchanges harsh criticisms and insults with her fellow Espada. Is she trying to help him or give him reasons to hate her even more than he already does so? We soon learn that it was indeed Nnoitra who had defeated her Frachion and ripped off their masks. As they lay on the ground asking for Nell's forgiveness, she angrily charges at him, striking him, but his image vanishes into thin air thanks to a device created by Zyzel Apollo, who helps Nnoitra to defeat Nnoitra. Taking advantage of her being surprised and distracted, she is attacked from behind by Nnoitra. The attack causes her mask to break, along with making her fall unconscious due to the injuries she sustains. He looks on at her with disgust and contempt as her body hits the ground. He doesn't care if she likens his ambush to the act of a beast. He then throws her body out of the fortress of Las Noches. He says that it isn't their level of strength that separates them, but rather it is their experience. He knows the wound he has inflicted on her will take time to heal, and in that time he will have gained more experience and closed the gap between their strength. He says that he will reach a height so high that her sword will not be able to reach him. In chapter 309, which is titled Pray for the Mantis, we see this visual representation of the heights that he tried to achieve, trying to become that which is higher than the moon. In chapter 295, he looks over the edge of Las Noches and realizes that Nell has become a child because of the Ryatsu which is leaving her body through the crack in her hollow mask. He laughs at her, presumably feeling like she is the one who looks pathetic now. He does however say that he will miss that their blades will not cross again, as his flashback ends. The relationship that these two characters share is a strange one, a mixture of somewhat admiration and resentment that he feels towards her. It is a complex dynamic that really emphasizes Nnoitra's personality and explains his reason for being. We learn more about Nnoitra's ideology and his reason for being through the poem that Kubo writes about his character in volume 33 of Bleach. We are insects, parasitic worms writhing in malicious constancy, soaring past the moon you look up to until you pathetic creatures are no longer visible. We can infer that the insects referred to in this poem are the inhabitants of Hueco Mundo, who are made to suffer through their boring constant existence, in which they have nothing to strive for. We learn from this poem that Nnoitra desires to soar past the heights of the moon, which is the only object shining light down upon the otherwise dark world of Hueco Mundo. He wishes to soar so high attaining this newfound height, as he seeks for everyone to be barely visible in his sight when he looks down upon them from this new heightened position. Nnoitra's battle with Kenpachi takes place in volume 35, which is titled Higher Than the Moon. This adds to Nnoitra's desire and is once again emphasized by the image Kubo draws in chapter 309 of Nnoitra stood on top of a hill under the blinding light of the crescent moon, which he seeks to surpass. The symbolism of the crescent moon is reflected in Nnoitra's Zanpakuto through its design, which features two crescent shapes, as well as the obvious references to the crescent moon in his released state. You can see the horns on Nnoitra's head resembling the moon of Hueco Mundo, along with his released Zanpakuto, which extends across back to back, forming two crescent shapes from the four blades that he wields. His desire is reflected in his weaponry, which helps him to progress further and become stronger, allowing him to challenge and defeat opponents, which will bring him closer to the moon that he desires to surpass. Nnoitra takes part in one of the best encounters within Bleach, during his battle against Kenpachi, who complements and matches Nnoitra's personality through their shared sense of bloodlust and desire for battling strong opponents. The battle between the two of them begins in chapter 298. They both are beasts in their own right, sharing a similar love for battle, wanting to battle for the intoxicating thrill of the fight. Kenpachi cuts down Tessera and sets his sights on the Espada next. They exchange their names and ranks with each other as their battle begins. Mayuri tells Renji that Kenpachi is headed to help Ichigo. He states that when he is on the battlefield, he is like a wolf with a scent of blood in its nostrils. He advises not to get in his way, as it may result in being devoured by the beast. Nnoitra states that the blade of a Shinigami cannot cut his skin, but Kenpachi challenges this notion by striking his blade through Nnoitra's eye patch, which is revealed to conceal his hollow hole. Nnoitra then returns the favor by running his hand into Kenpachi's chest. He laughs at Nnoitra out of happiness, as he realizes that Nnoitra can be killed, and all it will take is to be cut by Kenpachi's blade. In chapter 308, we see the two beasts give off exactly the same energy as they taunt each other. Kenpachi stating that he will cut Nnoitra, as Nnoitra yells he cannot be cut. Both of them share the same sadistic smile. Not too long after they clash, Kenpachi does indeed manage to cut his arm and cut him across the face. It appears that Nnoitra is being bested by the captain, as Kenpachi has gotten used to the toughness of the Espada's skin and has adjusted his attacks so that they are more effective against his opponent. Kenpachi reveals that his eye patch that Nnoitra just removed is a seal that contains his spiritual energy, and he is lucky to still be standing. Kenpachi, looking down at him, forces him to release his Zanpakuto, as he yells that he will never die. In his release state, Nnoitra has 4 arms and wields a blade from each of his limbs. After activating his released form, all the injuries that he sustained earlier have been healed. Reacting to this turn of events, Kenpachi simply smiles and is incredibly excited. Both of them want nothing more than to cut each other down. Now it is Nnoitra who lands a blow in Kenpachi as he is slashed across his body. However, Kenpachi recovers quickly. Kubo depicts Kenpachi's incredible Ryatsu creeping up on Nnoitra as a deathly skull ready to consume its prey. He cuts off one of Nnoitra's arms, deciding that the best way to defeat his opponent is to cut off each of his arms. However, he grows back his severed arm like nothing had happened. He charges at Kenpachi and states that he is weaker than him. He continues to taunt Kenpachi by saying that he is scared, that's why he is running away. But Kenpachi charges at Nnoitra and pins down his arms with his blade. Nnoitra then grows an additional 2 arms which he uses to impale Kenpachi with. Just as Nnoitra begins to say that it is over, Kenpachi begins laughing, which shocks the Espada. It seems like Kenpachi sustaining an injury was the perfect way to motivate him to try harder. His sadistic attitude leads him to demand the Espada to continue. Nnoitra is understandably taken aback by the true beast of the series. Any other beast who dares to challenge Kenpachi ends up appearing like a poor imitation of the sadistic Kenpachi. Their battle continues with them exchanging blows, with Kenpachi appearing to have the upper hand, leaving Nnoitra overwhelmed. The two of them don't let up, and this is what makes their battle feel so enjoyable and memorable. They both desire a thrilling battle and are willing to die for this cause. Through his inner monologue in chapter 311, we learn that Nnoitra is confused as he cannot understand how Kenpachi, who has been cut more than him and is bleeding more, more is still able to strike back and challenge him with the same level of ferocity as the beginning of their battle. It is like each injury that Kenpachi sustains is only serving to give him more and more strength. Nnoitra's inferiority shows up once more as he tells himself that he is the best and attempts to attack Kenpachi, demanding that he hurries up and just dies. Kenpachi is aware that if this continues, then he will actually die, stating that he doesn't want to die just yet, so he decides to use a kendo technique that was taught to him by their head captain. He tells Nnoitra that a blade is stronger when you use 2 hands to attack with it instead of 1. Now this is genius, as it points out a fundamental flaw in Nnoitra's methodology. He grew more limbs but was still only using 1 hand to attack with multiple blades. He delivers a fatal blow to Nnoitra, swinging down his blade with both of his hands as it almost cuts the Espada in half. He is panting and drenched in blood, trying to stand. Kenpachi is surprised that he is still alive, which is a testament to his incredibly strong will and his desire to be strong. He is kneeling as he looks up at the smiling Kenpachi, who represents the heights which he is frustratingly far from reaching. As Kenpachi walks away, he demands that he waits, stating that the battle isn't over, but the captain tells him that he has no reason to kill a handicapped opponent. Nnoitra says that the battle isn't over then, showing that he isn't handicapped. He charges at Kenpachi one last time. Before his final moments, Nnoitra thinks to himself that he finds it humiliating to have people pity him. He shows no mercy and chooses not to show pity to anyone weak or strong. He states that he would kill his opponents with a single strike, not giving them a chance to come at him for a second time. Before he can complete his thought, he is cut down, falling to his knees. Nnoitra lives up to the description of a beast that Nell prescribes to him in the past, as he faces off against another beast in the form of Kenpachi. We learn more about their encounter through 5 sketches that Kubo draws at the end of chapters 308 to 312. The sketches depict a battle between 2 beasts, who represent the beastly resolves of Kenpachi and Nnoitra. In the first sketch, we see a skeletal beast who is wielding a blade similar to Kenpachi's thin zanpakuto. The second drawing shows us a beast who has horns which are identical to the crescent-shaped horns that Nnoitra has on his head during his released form. The third sketch shows the 2 beasts charging at each other. We can clearly see here that the 2 beings represent the killer intent of Nnoitra and Kenpachi through the style of blades that they are wielding. The fourth image shows the skeletal beast who now has grown more arms, resembling Nnoitra's released form. It appears that this image shows the beast charging and attacking the horned beast. The final image shows the crescent moon that represents Nnoitra's desires shattering, as the strands of Nnoitra's hair appear to be falling below it. These drawings by Kubo help to expand upon the personalities, desires, and ideologies of the characters. This series of sketches perfectly depicts the battle of the 2 beasts. Nnoitra's released form, which has multiple arms, is in reference to the rebellious beings called Asura, who are mentioned in the mythology of Buddhism and Hinduism. They are superhuman beings who are the opposite of gods, who reside in the heavenly realms. Asura are powerful demons who lack a sense of morals. They reside within the lower realms of existence and are driven by envy and their greed for more power, which is similar to Nnoitra. In the sketches between chapter 108 and 312, we also see Kenpachi's beastly depiction grow multiple arms, resembling an Asura demigod. The fourth sketch shows the skeletal beast taking on this demonic form with multiple arms. Before Nnoitra dies, he falls to his knees and looks on at Nell. As she opens her eyes and says his name, he collapses and dies before his body hits the floor, fulfilling his desire to die in battle at the hands of an incredibly strong opponent. Nnoitra without a doubt was one of the most hated and disgusting villains to feature within Bleach, particularly in regards to his disgusting attitude towards women and his immoral behaviors, especially how he enjoys attacking his opponents when they are caught off guard, willing to even cheat to defeat Nell that he is so envious of. He even hurt her Frashion, who had nothing to do with his feud with Nell. Despite his horrible personality, he was a fascinating character to follow, and one of the most complex villains written by Kubo. His way of dealing with despair and his desire for power and surpassing the moon kept me invested in his character. His matchup with Kenpachi I felt was genius, and his death was incredibly fulfilling, living up to his feelings of inferiority till the very end, as he was defeated by a bigger beast to embody the desire of bloodlust more than he did. I enjoyed the appearances of this Espada, as I genuinely felt feelings of hatred towards him, for what he did to Grimmjow, Nell, Chad, and how he tortures Ichigo and makes Orihime watch on. I felt no remorse for him after seeing him die, and felt like him being killed by Kenpachi was the only appropriate outcome to conclude his negative character arc. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then please consider supporting my channel on Patreon. I have multiple tiers with rewards including access to an exclusive Discord server, video scripts, as well as being the first to know about unreleased upcoming videos. Thank you for your time, and whatever you choose to contribute I will appreciate, and it will mean a lot to me.